Hey, it's Yash, and the last video that I decided to post on LinkedIn did so much better than I thought it would that we're deciding to bring it back and maybe, hopefully, keep this on at least a weekly cadence. In that last video, what I talked about was how you uniquely demo complex tools like Clay to provide value up front to the prospects you're speaking to, but also to focus on getting prospects excited about pursuing the potential next steps with you. Because if you don't get a follow-up call from that first call when you need one, everything else you've done is but for naught. Now, the one principle we could probably sum up that entire 11-minute video with is you have to earn the right to discovery. If I'm given a choice between learning more about a prospect on a first call and getting them so stoked no matter what we talk about that they're interested in pursuing the next steps, I'm always going to default to the latter. Now, the one exception I'm going to make here is whenever I have a prospect that I feel dubious about potential qualification, I may not actually put some of that upfront work into making it highly customized and exciting because I don't want to be wasting time on people that aren't ultimately going to be valuable in our process. It's a waste of my time and theirs. Now, all that being said, I don't think discovery and demoing have to be two distinct parts of your sales call. In fact, I would say, done very intelligently, you can weave discovery into pretty much every single part of a demo and save both yourself and your prospects a ton of time in the process. What we're going to cover in this video is 5 of my favorite techniques for weaving discovery into your demos. Let's jump in to those 5 techniques. Technique number 1 is actually all about giving prospects the choice up front. And this choice is a little bit different from what I talked about in the last video. It's not a choice of how to run the demo. It's actually a choice of what kind of demo you're going to show them. For example, at Clay, we've got so many different use cases that we now show to potential prospects that we've got a whole Notion database of all the different best demo tables that clearly display the value of different subsections of each use case. We've got tables for inbound, for outbound, for CRM enrichment, and about 3 to 4 other very common GTM use cases. I personally love starting that call with a little bit of research and framing a question up front to the effect of, hey, I've noticed that you guys probably get a lot of inbound from the forms that you have on the pricing page, but also you've probably got a lot of complex data about your CRM that you might want to clean or standardize. Now, I've got a bunch of different inbound demos and a bunch of different CRM demos I could show you. By the way, I've also got outbound, TAM sourcing, GTM Copilot, but which one of these really stands out to you? And this is a brilliant way to start a demo because you're subtly getting information about prioritization and what matters to your prospects up front. If they sort of dilly-dally for a little bit and then they tell you, let's go with inbound, you can pull up that inbound demo because you don't want to derail the demo, but you can dig in a little bit further while you're clicking around the software. Why did you pick inbound over CRM enrichment? If you didn't pick inbound or CRM enrichment, why does outbound matter more? Why is that the thing that you want to focus on? Tell me more about your decision-making process in that first moment. And throughout that answer, your prospect is going to be giving you the context that's relevant to them, that's going to help you tailor the potential solution you're providing to what they're looking for. Next up is technique number 2, which is bridging features to reality. So every time you're going through a different part of your demo, you want to connect that part of the process to the way that you think your prospect is going to benefit from it. For example, let's keep going on the inbound table. If we're using an inbound table at Clay, there's several parts to that inbound table's process. First up, we have to get the source data of the person. Then we have to actually look at what data we need about that person. Then we have to make a determination about what the score might be. Then we have to figure out if there's any other additional custom demo points that would be helpful to get for the prospect that I'm showing it to. You guys sort of get the point. At each separate junction in that inbound demo, I get a separate opportunity to learn more about the person that I'm talking to. First up, I can even take a look at the website and do my research and say, hey, on your inbound demo form today, you're sort of asking 8 different questions. Do you guys actually use any of this data? By the way, we can actually turn that demo form into just one question with the type of enrichment that you get from Clay, which is going to skyrocket your fill-out rates. And now I'm getting more information about how this data gets used internally at the company and who touches it. Then the next thing I can ask is, what kind of data do you have people getting today? Does this kind of match what I'm showing you in the demo, where we're enriching all the details about this person and getting all the firmographics and even building some custom seniority tagging into the process? And I also get to see and gauge my prospect's reaction on, wow, it's impressive that we get all of that data, or that's not really what we use it for. And so then I can on the fly improv to make sure that it's relevant to the person that I'm showing it to, because even if the demo that I have out of the box for the prospect isn't exactly what they're looking for, I can then personalize exactly what I'm telling them on the call so that I keep that excitement going. And I'm not going to belabor this point by going through every single other example of the inbound demo table, but hopefully this paints a picture. Next up is technique number 3, which is I call the pain translation method. So a big example of us doing this in Clay is often we do this the most with Claygent, because Claygent is simply mind-blowing. It's an AI web scraper, and it's getting data points that no other data tool is going to give you, and it's doing it all entirely automatically. And so whenever I show off Claygent, I show it in 2 ways. I can show Claygent number 1 as a part of the demo table that I've already built, but more often than not, what I'll do is after we've gone over that core capability of Clay, I'll ask someone on the call, do these points resonate with you? Are these the types of data points you'd want to be getting for your audience? And most of the time, the answer is maybe, but now you're giving me ideas because we put a constraint on it. We're showing them a capability of what's possible in the tool. They ask, is it possible to get how many developers are on the team? Is it possible to figure out what the traditional inbound size for the companies filling out our inbound form might look like? And the answer is almost always yes. And so what I'll do is pull up a Claygent prompt and I'll put in the meta prompter, help me find the total number of technical developers that work at X company. And then we'll run that prompt and start to get results live in the table. And while that prompt is running, I'm going to be making a couple of educated guesses about, okay, I'm either guessing you don't collect this data currently, but you know it's incredibly valuable. Do you know why it's incredibly valuable? Do you see that anecdotally even deals close more frequently when you know this information about a prospect up front, or that they're more likely to respond? And if they say yes, I can drill in. I can ask how much more likely are they to respond? Do you know the direction? Do you know the order of magnitude? Or if it's not a direct tie into the business use case, I can still tie in to the pain of getting that data point manually. If you are getting it manually today, how much time do you think people are actually spending going through the process of watching the record pop up in the CRM, going to Google search, searching for the data, scouring the web page, and then coming back? Let's just ballpark it at 5 minutes. And let's say you've got 5 people doing this 10 hours each because you've got hundreds of people coming in inbound. That means you're spending 50 hours a week on that team just getting this one data point. What could your team be doing with that extra 50 hours? And I think what's great about this technique is it's a little bit of disco and a little bit of selling. You're making sure that you understand the language by which your prospects are going to be evaluating your tool, while also throwing out a couple of loosely held opinions that you can gauge their reactions to. Now we've got technique number 4, which I call the technical discovery weave. So this is really helpful for Clay because we're an ecosystem of different data providers. We offer 130 plus different integrations and we connect to all sorts of different CRMs. So what I'll often do on a call is mention that up front. And that gives me a little bit of an insight into what tools and tech are actually most relevant to the person that I'm talking to. When I mentioned the 130 plus providers up front, that's impressive to some people, but it also just glazes eyes over. What are the 130 plus different providers? Also, those providers maybe aren't that important if they're not the providers that I already use. And so I'll scroll through some of that list just to showcase the breadth of all the providers that we have. And I'll ask questions as I'm scrolling through. Hey, do you notice any providers on here that you guys use already? By the way, we connect to a bunch of different CRMs. Do you use one of these CRMs? And if so, why and how? Who owns the CRM? And most of the time, people will give me that information about tech stack. They'll give me the information about their data providers that I can then weave into the rest of my call. Oh, that's great. You've already got Hunter.io. You've already got HG Insights in your tech stack. Don't worry, you're not double spending in Clay. In fact, you can actually just connect your native API keys into the tool, draw down from your original subscription, and then save those valuable Clay credits for anything else that you want to build in your automated workflows. And now I also have additional secondary intelligence about the types of data that might matter to the people that I'm talking to. If someone's got an HG Insight subscription, they clearly care about deep technographic data. They want more specific data providers and more specific tech stacks than you can get out of the box with a tool like BuiltWith or Predict Leads. And then I can also start to customize future calls to more specific use cases that we've seen customers use in HubSpot, in Salesforce, because that's going to be way more powerful because it's relatable to what they do every day. And then all of that leads to technique number 5, which is gathering competitive intelligence. Whenever someone that I'm talking to gets excited about a feature, I always ask, have you seen anything similar in other tools? Is this something that you are looking for in your evaluation of tools? If so, where have you seen it? What else have you been excited about? What's making you excited or not excited about what you're seeing here? This also comes up a lot with Claygen. I'll often say, wow, I can totally see that blew your mind. How else do people get this data today? And what else are you guys looking at to potentially get this data? And the most frequent answer I get to that question is reps get this data manually using ChatGPT, which always leads to this wonderful conversation about, well, that's great because you're able to get the data and able to get it a little bit faster. It's still not really super effective because if you have reps copy pasting every single account and contact details into one-on-one ChatGPT prompts and then taking those prompts to then go copy paste them back into your CRM, maybe it's not 50 hours of work that you're wasting a week, but it's certainly still dozens. And so let's just take all of that and fully take it off the rep's plate because getting the information is not what matters. Having the information and leveraging it is what matters. And then every now and then we'll also get people who tell us about other tools that they're evaluating. Maybe it's other data providers, maybe it's other workflow tools. And that then opens up the conversation for, if you're willing, tell me how you're feeling about those tools. Where are you at in the process with them? Tell me what you like about those tools. And I personally always preface these questions with, I know I'm a seller. I know that technically I'm trying to sell you on Clay here, but I'll be super honest with you. I'm really just like an automation nerd. All I want is for people to build the best possible solutions. And part of why I'm asking is because I'm just curious on what else is out there. And I promise you, if there is a tool that does something better than what we're able to do with it, I'll tell you to go use that tool, and I'll go tell the product team that we either need to think about that functionality or stop selling this use case so hard. I'm really focused on one thing that matters the most, which is helping you figure out the best GTM tech stack you could possibly be utilizing. And not everyone believes me on that all the time, but if you actually embody that ethos throughout your calls, people will build trust with you over and over again. And so that leads me to one bonus technique that doesn't really fall into disco demo hybridization, but I do think is a really effective trust building tactic, which is that I very readily and almost even intentionally mention flaws of our software upfront. If you've ever been in the buying role, you can relate to this pain really, really well. There is nothing more frustrating than when you ask a question to a sales rep, you get a somewhat vague answer that probably goes along the lines of, yeah, that's a great idea. We don't really have that in the product right now, but I promise you it's on the roadmap. And in fact, let me talk to the team and I'll get back to you. And I bet if that's the one thing that's blocking you from getting on this deal, we will have it on the roadmap and prioritize it to make it happen for you. I don't think there's been a single time that a salesperson has ever offered to put something on the roadmap and delivered it on time after I've signed a deal. That's not a trust building exercise. That's a sales play. And so you can take those opportunities to admit the weaknesses in your product. For example, in Clay today, please don't kill me, engineering team, I very readily tell people that we can do lead scoring and it is functional in the product. It's not easy. We also don't do routing really well. And so for people who want to build the enrichment and the flow and the copywriting from your inbound leads, I do think there's genuinely no better tool that I've seen on the market yet. And you're welcome to show me one if you want. I'll get excited about it. But if you're looking to do complex routing, complex territory assignment, complex round robins within different parts of your sales team, I'll leverage with you. That's probably not the best use case of Clay. And so what I'm going to recommend here instead is probably that you leverage Clay for some part of that. And maybe that means a smaller contract size up front. And maybe that means that you're not using all of the software in all the ways that the sales team would want you to use it. But what it also means is you're going to have a better experience as a buyer. And what I'm confident in is our long-term relationship together, because you're going to grow as a result of using these cutting-edge tools. And we are hopefully going to grow with you. It's a long-term future partnership. These types of micro moments where you actually admit or show weakness in the product, because no one does everything perfectly, are real trust building moments. And they get people to actually open up with you, which is ultimately the goal of any of these calls. So, all that said, I'm starting to drone on. Those are the 5 techniques I love using with a little bit of a bonus flavor thrown in there. And I think what I'll end this video on is just one note, that the best first calls with prospects are not actually first calls with prospects. They're almost like first calls with a new friend. You show up with curiosity, you show up with excitement, and you actually ask them a lot of questions, not only about them, but about what they care about and what they do. And you get to know them and what they're trying to do really deeply, while still offering enough information about yourself to keep them interested. Because if you think about the last few good friends that you made, hopefully they weren't too long ago, you probably had a great balance of getting to know them while also feeling seen and heard by them. And I don't think sales is any different. I think ultimately we're all human. Even in the era of AI, we want to do work with humans and be seen by other great humans. And that isn't changing anytime soon. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you start using any of these techniques and they're helpful to you in some of your discovery and demo calls. And as always, drop some feedback and let me know what else you'd like to see. I'm loving doing these videos.